So, welcome back, dudes. And some of you people that have been to the academy will recognize this room. I'm sitting in one of the classrooms here, so a wee bit of a room change. And this video, I'm going to be discussing why. And anybody that's heard me speak before will know that I really bang on about this point a lot. Jason as well. We really believe in this. It's absolutely mission fucking critical, this part. I mean, usually when people come to us for help with marketing and sales advice, even funnel critiques, Facebook ads, and they want to know why things are not working the way they want them to, it always boils down to this point. They have not done this groundwork. And if you've heard me speak before, you will have heard me talk about Simon Sinek. So in fact, it was Jason introduced me to Simon Sinek with the book Start With Why. And that's where the whole inspiration from this start point came from. So rather than me bang on about it again, I thought the best thing to do would be to pull up one of the long lost TED Talks that Simon Sinek did way back and have him explain it to you so that you can hear it directly from the horse's mouth. This guy is a fucking genius. Listen to me. This is going to be 18 minutes of pure, absolute gold. I'm going to see you at the other end of this, and I'm going to give you a little brief to pull out the really, really stupid, not that it's not important, all of this is important, but I'm going to really pull out some of the things that need to hit home at the end of the video because we're going to be using them to create the core of the conversation of our whole business. Everything we do will be coming from this. That's why when we look at what we call our Wheel of Fortune, it Y's at the top. People always want to talk about the sales and marketing bit over this end, but if this shit is not done right, you're always going to have to come back and do this work. If it's not correct, you're going to have serious problems in your business. You're going to be struggling, spinning your wheels, banging your head against the wall, frustrated and wondering why shit is not working, and it's because you have not done this foundational work. All right? So less of me, more Simon Sinek. Go watch the video now. I'm going to splice it straight in here. See you on the other side.
So where do you start when you have a program that's about integrating life's passions? Well, you start with why. Why? And that kicks us off for the first speaker tonight, Simon Sinek, in his talk, Start With Why.
We assume even we know why we do what we do. But then how do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. Sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will anybody How will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world. and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat-screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed. And it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there were 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
So, there you go. What do you think of that? Mine's fucking blown. Told you, dude's an absolute fucking genius. So, look, that's why we start with why. Because, I mean, he's fucking right. I'm going to move this thing over here. Just, maybe you can see it, you can't. So this is why this whole thing is crucial to get this stuff correct. It's crucial that you've spent enough time on this. And now you know what we know about this. As, of course, if you want the color in this, that little presentation by Simon Sinek, you should go and read the book. I highly recommend everyone reads that book. It will transform the way you communicate. Okay, so let's have a wee look here, because there is, the book starts with why, and like he says, you know, he's seen a pattern forming from all the great leaders and the way they talk and the way they communicate and the way they inspire and the way they lead. And it was the complete inverse in the way everyone else talked, inspired, led, and communicated. And that is what we need to get a handle on. Because if we continue to talk like everyone else, talking about the what, you'll always be differentiated, because what's come down to comparable things. If you're only talking in what's, comparable things like HIIT sessions, before and after photos, 3 strength sessions, I'll weigh in, I'll give you a nutrition plan. So what? If you're talking like that, you will be differentiated by price. It will always come down to price if you're talking features and benefits. If you're talking whys, different volume. That's where price elasticity comes into it. Because if you're incomparable, there's nothing for anyone else to compare you against. Therefore, you command your price because you're doing a totally different thing. And that's what he was describing in here, the golden circle of demand generation using content, right? I always say this shit. I say, people do not buy products, people buy people. And I'm right, in my correct opinion. Simon Sinek just proved that I'm right. I've been saying that shit for years. I didn't know that I was right. I just had that belief, you know, and I've seen that from years of selling shit. Okay? And the other thing is that they buy from people that they know, like, and they trust. That's why telling stories is fucking beautiful. Stories that are relatable to the audience, though. You can't just be telling fucking, you know, Penny Englishman, Penny Irishman, Penny Scotsman shit. Right? You've got to be telling stories that relate to the audience, meeting them where they're at, right? Like, here's somebody that does a brilliant bulletproof coffee. You know the fucking yak butter? I mean, it was like, he tells a story about how he was up the mountain and he fucking just didn't have the energy and everybody else was going flat out. And then he noticed that they were all drinking this coffee with this sweet butter in it. And it was yak butter. And then, as soon as he drank it, he was full of energy. And then, of course, you hear the story. Now you know why you need it, because the story, ingrained in the story, is the lesson. You see this? That's kind of the medicine for dogs idea, which we'll talk about in more detail. Park that. We'll talk about that in more detail when we dive into marketing. We talk about real in-depth contexts and concepts. All right. If you don't start with why, like I said earlier, you're going to be compared, and you will always have ER offers. So all the things you say will end in ER. I am cheaper. I am better. I am faster. They're all comparable terms. That's where you do not want to be. When you hear yourself talking that way, what you need to think is, fuck, it's happened. I'm starting to communicate the what's. I've fell out of the why. And this is going to be difficult. It's going to take time. It's going to take you really sitting down and teasing out what you mean. If you're able to give people a why for or to your product, then you're going to be able to influence behaviors. People can understand benefits and features and all that shit, but it's not going to influence behavior, and that's where we need to get to. So benefits and all that shit is this. What we need to get is that level deeper and start thinking about the whys. Okay? And that is the whole concept I talk about when I'm talking about red ocean with everyone else. If you communicate like everyone else, if you're talking the same language as everyone else, if you sound like every and any other personal trainer out there, you're going to be differentiated on price. You want to jump right into the blue ocean, you've got to carve that. And that comes from you figuring out what your why is and starting to communicate completely differently. So as soon as people hear about you and your product and your service and your offering and your experience, from the word go, from the initiation of the conversation, you're different, really different. You're the inverse, like Simon Sinek says. Everyone else is talking from here in. Well, they just talk at this level. You're talking from a much deeper level. You're wise. You're talking about causes, beliefs. And this is supported by biology. It's not opinion. The deep limbic level here does not understand language. And this bit here, your logical brain, it does not control decision making. So when you're communicating it's why people always say, I'll think about it. If you can get to here, that's when people they fall in love with your shit. And then they use logic to justify why they deserve it. This happens all the fucking time. If you can think back to the last time you blew your budget on something, it's always going to be the time when you said, fuck, you're looking at it, you're like, oh, fuck, I bought a pair of headphones, 250 quid or some shit, right? It's like, oh, fuck it, you know what? I deserve these. And I've been working really hard, and I need them. Because if I get them, I'll be able to work harder, I'll be able to do better videos, It's got to justify why I needed this fucking product in my life. We all do. And that's what we want, because over here in the blue ocean on the right, that's where price elasticity comes in. Elasticity meaning you command what you charge because you're incomparable to anything else. You're the dude who does for who want to experience without you fill in the fucking blanks for whatever your product is. Over here, it's like, I'm a personal trainer and I can train anyone who wants men, women, children, I can train everybody, and then I'm the best. And I can do the best HIIT sessions, and I'll give you 3 HIIT sessions if you want, and I'll give you 2 training sessions, and I'll give you and all these features, benefits, It's just like, yeah, well, okay, great. But this guy over here, he's cheaper, and he does the same thing. But if I'm over here and I'm saying, well, I'm not a personal trainer, I'm not actually a personal trainer. What I do is slightly different to that, and please don't compare me to it, because let me give you a perfect example. We had a guy in the group of Ascension who he came over from Brussels. His name was Declan Trainer, and the trainer was spelled Treanor, Declan Trainer. He was charging 1,600. He was earning 1,600 euros a month. He phoned me up, Sean, I need help with business, and he was the most cautious fucking dude ever, right? Really worried about investing into Ascension. Am I going to make this back? And I was like, how? When we got over it, in fact, it got to the point where I was just like, Jesus Christ, if people think of this, do you know what? You're actually telling me you're a fucking bad fit for this program. This isn't for you. And he's like, no, fuck it, I'm in, Sean, I'm in. So that kind of spurred him to taking some action. I was genuinely going to say this is not for you, but then that takeaway closed, which is quite effective. And I didn't mean it to be, I was being genuine, but that made him fucking buy. I was like, no, fuck it, I know I need this now. I know I need this. I suppose I didn't sound desperate either, and I wouldn't sell to anyone, but he was very convincing then. We let him in. Long story short, he flew over from Brussels. He spent a day with me and he says, how am I going to shift my business in the direction I wanted to go? What we worked on was his business model, of course, because the way he was delivering training wouldn't allow him to make any more. But the next thing was to increase his prices. We only worked on his communication. That's it. That's all we fucking did. Showed him that his business model needed to increase his capacity and how to structure that. And all we talked about was the way he communicated. We started with why. Because I asked him the question, why should I buy personal training from you versus him? That's a really fucking hard question to answer. Super hard. In fact, it is the hardest question you'll ever be asked. We worked through a full day till we nailed that shit. 5 months later, he came back into Ascension, stood up at the mastermind, and he was making 8K. That's a big jump. And that's all we changed. So learning how to communicate in the blue ocean will allow you price elasticity. You stuck over here, you're charging what everyone else charges. That's why people come and say to me all the time, but you can't charge that in my time. Bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. All you're telling me is you cannot charge any more than that. There are plenty of people inside Ascension charging huge, huge money. They're charging exactly what they're worth when they understand how to communicate that value to the client in a way that matters to them. All right? And let me just put your name as Declan Trainer. If I said, Declan, why should I buy a personal trainer from you versus this personal trainer over here? And he says, because I'm not a personal trainer. I am a performance trainer. And what I do is I help you unlock your potential through mind, body, and soul. That's the way I work. Does that idea make sense to you? Totally different. People were like, fuck, what do you do? You're a what trainer? Yeah, I'm a performance trainer. Look, maybe we should sit down and have a chat about what it is that you're trying to achieve and whether we'd be a good fit to do business together. Have you got a minute? Beautiful close now. You see this? He's closing from the minute he opens his mouth because he's totally different, communicating on a much higher level. Okay, there you go. That's just a run-through example of blue and red ocean and how you can use the communication to start moving in that direction. So straight away, when you communicate like that, you're already getting people who are going, fucking hell. That's called maintaining yes momentum towards a close. That's what we want. Remember, all of what I've just described is just from getting clear on your why and building a business from that. Here's why I do what I do. And I know you're going to be saying, wow, what the fuck does this all mean? Here we go. I've got some briefs, some points, some summaries. So when you start with why, you start with what you believe. That is giving people a clear reason, a why to buy your product or service. Like, what did they say for iPod? Every other MP3 player was saying 16 gigajiggers and fucking ready for the hood and all this fuck, you know, all those lines no one understood. Look at this, it's got 5 gigajiggers of memory and like no one knew what the fuck it was. It's an MP3 player. What the fuck does that even mean? No one knew. Apple said 10,000 songs in your pocket. Would you like 10,000 songs in your pocket? Fuck. I got 10,000. And back in the days of CDs, some of you fuckers might even remember what a CD looks like. CD, you have music on fucking 11 songs if you're lucky. 10,000 songs in your pocket. Fuck. Industry changing. Innovative. Huge. Fucking changed the whole industry. Right? That's giving people a why. That just eliminates any and every other competitive option. That makes them redundant. It's just like, they're all bullshit. Whoa, this fucking thing over here, lethal. People will understand benefits and features, but that will not change their behavior. So really what we're doing is we're creating the core of the conversation that any problem, any conversation will always stem back to this shit, right? Yeah, you could have an MP3 player, but wouldn't you rather have 10,000 songs in your pocket? Yeah. Everything else is obsolete. Okay? Now, this has been around, like anybody again that's heard me speak before will hear me saying, this is the question. I'm saying this for donkey. Dan Kennedy, this is where I learned it from. Why should I choose your business, product offering, your service or experience versus any and every other competitive option, including doing nothing at all, which is what a lot of people say. You tell them, you give them your pitch, your best ever, I think I've nailed this, give them your pitch. And he goes, I'll think about it. Fuck you bastard. You fuck, that was my best shot. Why did he say think about it? They're saying that because you're not communicating the why. You're up here, not there. You're in the mind, you're in the head, we need you in the heart. You're up here, communicate to the head, we need you to communicate to the heart. Not logic. You need to communicate with emotion, reasons, justifications, causes, beliefs, whys. That's what you're going to get. Deep limbic shit. And people are like, I need this. Oh, fuck, it's creating desire straight away. People want it. Then they will find a way to include your product, service, offering, or experience in their lives. Even if it means blowing their budget. That's what we want. Next person you'll hear saying this is Jordan Belfort. He says you 4 seconds. And if you start with why, you will do this. If you 4 seconds, you can affirm you're sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as all hell, and an expert in the field, you win. And you will achieve that by tonality, body language, and the things that you do and say. So this is what we need to be able to do. We need to be able to communicate a why effectively. A cause, a belief, a reason that makes any other competitive option obsolete. It's just another product. But this thing over here, this is, whoa, different. I need this. I want this. So you've got work to do. You need to start formulating your why. And that is really going to be down to you. You guys, this is the foundational speech. This is the stuff you need to understand to bring it into the whole, what we call the, fucking forgot the name now, the Wheel of Fortune. You just need to have this because without it, you're not going to have the pillars or the elements of your whole business. And it's going to mean that your ability or your clarity of message is going to be, well, super fucking poor. It's going to be vague as fuck. All right? So you need to be absolutely clear in your message, because clarity is the currency of the modern businessman. Your clarity here at this point of the conversation, when you're opening the conversation, that's actually where you close. Most people think a close happens over here in sales. And I know I'm going into sales speak here, but it's all related. Most people think, you open up, you start saying, hey, how are you? And how did you get here? Did you find it okay? And like getting into rapport? Bullshit. Rapport is fucking bullshit. If you're thinking that you open and you get in a rapport and then you start asking questions and then you close, you're fucking out of business. My friend, you are selling and closing from the moment you start speaking. In fact, even before, if you're not clear here, you're not even going to be able to communicate a message with absolute clarity. Your ability to be clear here will determine how many people close over here, how many people say yes. You need to have yes momentum from here all the way. You're gathering intelligence, you're in rapport, and you're closing from the minute you start speaking. You're doing all three things at the same time. Gathering rapport, you're gaining intelligence, and closing from here all the time. You must maintain yes momentum all the way. Otherwise, you're going to have think about it shit. And that will be determined by your ability to communicate this message with absolute fucking clarity. And if you haven't got a why, you have not got any clarity. All your messaging is going to be big as fuck. It's going to sound like everybody else, and then you will be compared on price. So do you see that this is one of the most important foundational exercises you can do as a business person? I hope you do. Now you need to fucking sit down and think about this shit. It's going to take time, and you need to be able to communicate your why. Okay? And that is us. We're done for this bit. Move on to the next section. I'll see you on the other side.